When you've had a long week and want to mix it up with something new and interesting to eat, try Blue Apron's 2 or 4 serving menu plans with those hard-to-find ingredients sure to spice up your weekend. With 60-plus options each week, you can choose from an ever-changing mix of high-quality meat, fish, vegetarian, WW recommended, and wellness offerings. Order now and get $110 off across your first 5 orders when you visit blueapron.com/unique.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Direct-to-Video Connoisseur podcast. It's Matt here as always, and actually I'm kind of surprised. I'm doing pretty good at like keeping like a good like rhythm of actually getting podcasts done, because I know we went on hiatus for that for a while. The blog itself is a little bit different, but yeah. So we're another podcast episode here, and we have 2 guests who are no stranger to the DTVC podcast. I've got Brett and Ty from Comeuppance Reviews. Welcome back, guys.
Hey.
Hello. Happy to be back.
We're back once again. We're basically your co-hosts.
Yes, I was going to try to. I think I was trying to count how many times you guys have been on, and realized I was missing. Like I was like losing track, or like I was like, oh no, that's right, you guys did this one too, and then so yeah. So whatever the number is, it's the most all time.
Well, we were honored. Thank you.
Thanks for having us on over and over again, and you'll be on very soon for Don the Dragon Wilson.
Yes, which is exciting. I know. I'm excited to dig into the Dragon's filmography.
Nice.
Yes, and I think today's episode, because thinking about when I was on your episode the last time when we were talking about meatheads, I think this episode we're going to do today has the possibility to go in those kind of fun directions. Not that I'm casting any aspersions on our topic, on the subject of this episode, but I have a feeling we might have some of those nice, funny digressions that we had in the Meathead podcast that I was on for your show.
Well, let's hope.
I hope so. I bet it will be. It's going to be a lot of fun because we got the great subject of.
We've got Mr. Wings Hauser. We're doing Wings Hauser today. So, I think Wings Hauser is one of those guys that, one of the funny things I was thinking about with him is that, like, because you know how right now with the way politics are, you've got your Hollywood, you've got your actors and talent who are very left and maybe like Bernie Bros or something like that, and then you've got the real Trumpers, the ones that are on the far right that are like posting tweets that Twitter has to put warnings about because they might be misleading people about the election and that kind of thing. And the funny thing I was thinking about with Wings Hauser is he could be either side of that aisle, and either one would be extremely believable and like would make total sense. I think that's kind of how Wings is. He's like a total wild card when it comes to acting.
What's really funny about that is that he was part of his own misinformation. Remember, he died, in quotes, a couple months ago?
That's right.
Yeah, there was that rumor going around that he had passed away, and I think he had to come out. I mean, I don't know if he's a big, presence on social media, but he had to come out and say, hey, guys, I'm not dead, so.
I'm not dead, bro.
And I mean, that's another thing too with Wings, right? Is that like it's just as believable that he would have this kind of like hard living, fast lifestyle where he's maybe even doing drugs, maybe not doing drugs, but maybe eating a lot of like steak and like drinking whiskey with a beer back, and like you could see that, or you could also see him as this guy who's like goes to like co-ops in California to get like fresh steel cut oats to make his his healthy breakfast. Like again with Wings, like you just would never know like what if he's if he's someone who would die early, die younger, or someone who could live to be 100.
And I agree with that, but it's funny because I tend to see him as sort of like the wild man of DTV. I mean, maybe he's calmed down in recent years, and my guess is he probably has, but basically I view him as sort of like the wild card of DTV. You know, he's always doing something interesting. He's always kind of doing things his own way. He's could be flying off the handle and just kind of doing things the Wings way. And that's kind of how I view him. I mean, rightly or wrongly, that's kind of how I see him.
That's how I live my life, the Wings way.
Wings way. Well, that could be like a series of, instructional videos.
Oh, that'd be great. You could host it.
Yeah.
Well, I think
Welcome to the Wings way. I'm Wings Hauser.
I was going to say, in the 70s or 80s, I think, according to either his IMDb or his Wikipedia page, he had started his own, like, I don't know if it was his own band or, like, he was, but it was, like, I think it was called Wings Livin' Right or something like that. So that might be the name of the show, Wings Livin' Right.
Oh,
I love that.
Well, he did have a music career.
Right.
And he did release, I believe, one album in the 80s. And I could check into that as you guys talk. But he was more than just an actor.
Right. I think that was the one that was like either the album or like his stage name was Wings Livin' Right.
as if Wings isn't unusual enough. He added living right. Sounds like Slim Goodbody.
Right, exactly. I think it's all one word too. I think it's living right, and I think it may even be RITE.
Oh, that's how you spell right. The right way.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm looking on Discogs now to look up his musical career, and alias Wings. He kept the Wings, but living right, LIVINRYTE.
Oh,
it's
YT.
Another great spelling.
Yes.
But he apparently was involved in a band called Vision of Sunshine in 1970.
Have you heard of them?
I guess he never released an album under his own name, but he was in a band. I believe that's the name of the band. It's called Vision of Sunshine.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, this stuff is. I mean, it's like it makes complete sense, right? Like you could see him like with his guitar and sunglasses and his wild hair, just like playing a harmonica and guitar and all of that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in 1970 when the album came out, and that was. Kind of a time of folk rock and soft rock, and the band's called A Vision of Sunshine. So I without having heard it, I do kind of imagine that kind of like that sort of sound, which is funny because in the 80s you'd think he'd be more like a hard rock band.
Right. And it's interesting too because you mentioning that time period. I have to double check his IMDb, but I thought there's like a gap in his films between like 67 and like the early 70s, and I always attributed that because I think he fought in World War. It's not World War II. He was too old for it. He fought in Vietnam, and so I always attributed that break in time to that period. But I wonder if that he was actually doing a music career, like he was taking time off from movies to do that as well. You never know with Wings.
It seems likely because I'm checking now, and it does seem that there is a gap between his very first appearance in 1967. Then there's nothing until 1975 when he was on an episode of Canon. So
that guy's awesome.
So in that time it was kind of like Wings on the Run, not to be confused with Band on the Run by Wings. But
maybe they named that band after Wings Hauser.
Right.
Well, Wings Hauser did come first.
Right, exactly. One of the jokes I think somebody made on Twitter one time is that Wings is like in this person's top 2 plural first names with Powers Booth.
Yeah, that's funny. I wonder if they're ever in a movie together.
Powers and Wings.
That would be great. They could call it plural. And so
yeah plural.
Yeah.
There are 2 cops on the edge. They're just busting heads.
Right.
Well, apparently he was on a show called Magruder and Loud, which had one season in 1985. He didn't play Magruder or Loud, but it's a great name for a show.
Yes. Well, I think that's the funny thing about Wings Hauser for me is that, so how I first kind of got into his movies was I got one of those 10-pack DVD sets, And Mind, Body, and Soul was on it, which of course has wings, and Ginger Lynn
I just
Allen.
watched recently. Yeah,
Did you?
sorry. I just
Yeah.
watched it for the first time, like very recently. So if we talked about it, it's still pretty fresh in my mind.
Excellent. Yeah, I was watching it with some friends, and we just loved the Wings part of it. And I remembered Wings from like what you're talking about there, where you look through his IMDb, and he was someone who just like did guest roles in everything. I mean, I remember him in a Roseanne episode, Beverly Hills 90210. He was this guy who was trying to get Luke Perry's money back for him. And he would just be in all of these things. And so to find out that he had this huge direct-to-video movie career was just amazing for me. And I will say, because people ask about, sort of what started the direct-to-video connoisseur. Dolph is obviously, he was a very big part of it, doing his movies. But the Wings Hauser effect with my friends and watching Wings Hauser movies, that was also a big part. I mean, he's an inaugural Hall of Famer. He was one of the first inductees. And I have to credit him a lot. His movies with forming the direct-to-video connoisseur.
Well, I remember that because I know you're one of the biggest fans we know of Wings Hauser. And I bought movies just based on all your reviews. It's like back in the early 2010s.
Right. And not only that, but I think Ty, and I'm sure both of you will agree, that Wings Hauser has it. He has this sort of magnetic, big screen presence, and what's not to love?
Yeah.
So your first Wings movie was Mind, Body, and Soul. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it was that. And actually, one thing that's kind of funny is so I was visiting my friends at college because I had graduated by then, but they were still going. They were a little younger than me, and my buddy was living, was staying in a dorm with his friend, and I had never really met his friend before. His friend had just started going there to UMaine, but the friend was out. He was doing something. And so my buddy, after we watched Mind, Body, and Soul, he went to his computer and loaded up the screensaver with Wings Hauser headshots.
Wow.
And so,
I'm glad that exists.
And so then they all went to the dining commons, and I couldn't go. I didn't have a dining commons card, but the friend came back. And so I was having a conversation with the friend about wrestling. He just happened to be into old wrestling like me, stuff from the 80s and 90s. And we were talking about stuff, and of course his screen, his computer had gone to like sleep mode. And he went to go look something up that we were talking about as far as wrestling, and he goes, "Oh my God, what the hell is this?" And it was like, I look at his computer, it's just all Wings Hauser faces, and I was done. Like I just started cracking up. I mean, I barely knew this person. I just met him, and I couldn't not just, my friends were mad that they weren't there to see it happen. But it was like, so it was like, I like before Rick rolling, maybe there was wingsing, I guess is that.
Because I could just see that now. Instead of the flying toasters, it's the flying wings.
Right.
Yes. Wow, that would make sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
The wings-ing.
Well, we were talking, off air about what our first Wings experiences are, and I can't specifically remember what movie it was. It was probably Vice Squad, but I think that movie was a lot of people's entry into the world of Wings. So I'm gonna guess that was, even though I should have made a mental note in my mind, kind of like you did, saying, "Oh, this is my first." I didn't really do that. I think I would probably just watch Vice Squad. But before that, I would have to say it was just seeing the video box art in video stores, and Wings usually was on the cover starting at a certain point. Like if you look, at movies such as Hostage, No Safe Haven. Yeah,
Hostage. I was going to mention that as my first Wings movie. But yeah, go ahead, Brett.
And like Dead Man Walking, Nightmare at Noon, LA Bounty. Like Wings is on the cover of the boxes of all those. So when you're going through the video store, it's like he's on the cover of this box, he's on the cover of that box. Like they put Wings front and center on these boxes. Of Deadly Force, he's there, usually holding a gun, and that was probably my entree, as the French might say, into the world of Wings, is just seeing him on all these box covers. Probably leading up to my watching Vice Squad. But what's interesting, though, is I don't know if we're going to be talking about The Carpenter, which is a movie I have not seen, but he looks really insane on the front cover.
Yeah,
it's like Wings on Psycho.
Yeah, that was when I go ahead. I was going to say, because that's one. Yeah, The Carpenter's it's one that I think I've done about 30 Wings movies for the site or something like that.
That's awesome.
That's one that I've done. Yeah.
What did you think of it?
Well, let's actually, I called it a slow roller. It has its moments, both in the serious vein and some stylistic classic shots, and in the silly vein with Wings.
I remember the first Wings I ever watched was The Killer's Edge. Like, who is this man, this Wings Hauser? Because he was like blowing up stuff. He had a gun. He looked cool. So then I just, and then I found Hostage for like 25 cents. I found this. I found that. Living to Die.
Oh yes.
So it's like I love Wings Hauser. So it's like,
I'm so happy to be here.
Now I should make a quick correction. I just looked on my site. It's actually only 19 Wings films that I've done. So I haven't done anywhere near 30. So I'm very bereft on Wings on the site. We could use more Wings, I think.
Well, we always could. Well, what's interesting though is starting definitely in about 1990 is when he launched his directorial career, where he's behind the camera.
We all know what that movie is, right?
Yeah. So it's Cold Fire, Living to Die, and Art of Dying, which he directed in a row in 1990 and 91. And then later on, he did Gang Boys, a.k.a. Skins.
Very hard movie to find.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the idea that was like early PM at that time, right? Like that 89, 90 period where, I think some other people maybe an Art Camacho took advantage of the fact that PM was just like, hey, you want to direct it, go ahead and direct it. And I think, Wings was somebody that when you read that oral history of PM Entertainment that I can't remember the name of the site that did it, but I think I've linked it before. It's a really good article. If you anybody out there that wants more information about PM Entertainment, just look up oral history of PM Entertainment, and that article is fantastic.
Oh, I've read it a couple times.
Yeah, isn't that great? And I mean, the Kathleen Kinmont talking about being on Art of Dying with Wings Hauser, and she just talked about this manic energy that he had, and that's where I first heard that he had fought in the Vietnam War, because she was saying this Vietnam War veteran who just really just went for it, just went after it. And of course, there's that scene with the sex with all the food, and she was saying how he wanted to get a good shot of his ass while he was doing this scene, and they had to get a makeup woman to get it all good and everything, and it was just I think it's one of those things where it's you give Wings a camera, you give Wings the director's chair, let him have at it, you get something crazy like The Art of Dying.
Well, and they did mention in that article how you can work your way up through the ranks and direct your movie. Not that Wings needed to really work his way through the ranks, but they will give you a shot. A lot of people got a chance to direct a movie because PM had that, I want to say not a factory, because that sounds kind of heartless, but they had this system going where if you worked hard and you wanted to direct a PM movie, you could.
Yeah, and I think that's how they got Wings. I think that, for Wings at that time, it was PM was looking for, I think the two big names that stand out for that early PM period were Wings and Lorenzo Lamas. And
I was going to say Lawrence Hilton Jacobs.
Oh, that's right, Lawrence Hilton Jacobs.
He was in a lot of those, yeah.
He directed some, didn't he, Lawrence Hilton Jacobs? I think he did, along with Wings.
Chance, maybe?
Yeah.
Or L.A. Vice? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, such as L.A., probably.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think he directed some too. So I think that was how PM got some of those names on board, was to have them direct them. And then of course it was okay, if we can't get somebody else to direct it, then one of the two, P or M, will direct it instead, right? So Pepin or Barry, one of them will just do it, and then they'll just give it to somebody else later if somebody else wants to direct it. But and I think that's where you get some of the really fun Wings, is that early PM period where he's directing them and playing the part.
Well, and also going back to the Vietnam experience, let's not forget about Siege of Firebase Gloria, which he had an important part in, and probably lent some authenticity to.
That's a good one. That's a very underrated movie, just overall, besides with Wings.
Right. And the thing is, too, the director, Brian Trenchard Smith, he was on John Cross's podcast, After Movie Diner. I think it was one of the Booth Talk podcasts that they do. And he actually was talking to him about that, and he brought up Siege of Firebase Glory. And apparently, Trenchard Smith, in working with Wings, he created the whole Pee-wee character because I guess Wings wanted to do a little bit more with the role than just what was there. So they created the Pee-wee character to give him more, I guess to give the character more depth or more to do, which is interesting, right? That it all sounds like Wings, right? It's just as believable that he would ask for that as it would be that the movie he was doing would just have that in it and he would just roll with it.
Well, yeah, I think because his charisma is kind of overpowering. I mean, he has
that. You say no.
Yeah, so Exactly. That's, if you've got Wings and you can see he has this big personality, obviously you're going to want to give him more time in the sun.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess now that we're kind of getting into the movies, why don't we just jump right into Ty's list, and we'll kind of play off of that, and we'll go from there.
I have Vice Squad.
Okay. I think a lot of people, because that's sort of an earlier starring role for Wings. Yeah, I think you call it a starring role. I mean, he's the bad guy.
Yeah, Ramrod.
Yeah, Ramrod. Who can forget Ramrod?
Right. You can't.
And I think, too, like, people that know Wings and sort of our kind of like direct-to-video circle of film, watchers who don't quite know like a lot of the real, the stuff that we're talking about here. If they know anything, it's probably either Siege of Firebase Glitter or they know him as Ramrod in that film. I think it's like that's kind of like the Wings that they like if you mention Wings Hauser, they're like, oh, Ramrod, yeah, I know.
Yeah, no, it's a very identifiable role and an earlier role, so I think that would kind of get stuck in people's heads.
Did you buy that Blu-ray, Brett, or I bought it?
I don't have it yet, but there's a really good chance I'll get it down the line. But what's interesting is a lot of these Wings movies are now coming out on Blu-ray, which hopefully will give people like a chance to see them all over again or develop a new audience. Like Vice Squad, The Wind, Nightmare at Noon, and others are now coming out on Blu-ray. So I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, especially because, he did those movies with Nico Mastorakis. Am I saying it right?
Right. Yeah. Well, that's how I would say it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think those have, it seems like you have to have some sort of like a cult, like or a cult like hook for Blu-ray companies to make the Blu-ray. And so I think having it being attached to a director like that, because one of the things I used to watch those on DVD. I'd get the Netflix DVDs of those Nico Mas, like The Wind, and there was always a commentary track that Mastorakis would do. He talked about working with Wings and how much he enjoyed it. So yeah, I think that's one benefit that we have with some of these ones that Wings did. I mean, I don't know what's happening with the PM Entertainment catalog. I'd love to see all those on Blu-ray. But
that would be amazing. Hopefully some company will take that on, and that would be great.
Yeah.
What is your movie besides? Or what's on your list first?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think Vice Squad is it's one of those ones that it's like I think that villain of Ramrod. I feel like how do I want to say, like it wouldn't work without Wings's like frenetic energy. He just and I think that's the one thing about Wings that was so great was that he could be like the worst baddie and like the best good guy that you just really want to root for and hope they save the day. So it's funny how he can do that, because a lot of people it's like kind of one or the other. Like they're either a really good baddie or they're a good hero. And Wings, like it all works with him. I don't know. It's just like seeing Wings on the screen like that.
No, it's true. I mean, if you think about Billy Drago, Billy Drago is the bad guy.
Yeah.
In everything. Mm-hmm. You can't really see him. I mean, I think he has maybe done a couple heroic roles, but for the most part, 90+%, he's the bad guy. But you're right. Wings has more versatility.
Yeah, and I think like you'd think of somebody like like a Don the Dragon Wilson, who in New York Chinatown he plays a villain. It was like one of his first. I think it was actually his first role, and it's a good villain, but it's like he's not going to play a memorable villain the way that like Wings will play a memorable villain, or a memorable hero, or even just like a memorable guy or just a supporting character or something like that. And I think that's and again, a movie like Vice Squad that you would just kind of see as like kind of your classic like cable, a late night watch has like that little something extra just because of what Wings brings to it.
Right, and I think that's why movies like that and Deadly Force are getting Blu-ray releases, because Wings does bring that extra, percentage points, to make the movie
extra
better.
Yeah, it factor, that oomph factor.
Right. Excellent. Now, what do you have next after?
I have Wilding.
Oh, so I didn't finish Wilding. I got through a little bit more than half of it.
Okay.
So, but I what I saw of it was good for sure.
Well, all right. So there won't be any spoilers, but out of the 2 Wilding movies that came out that year, I do think that it's arguable, but Wings and Joey Travolta do bring a lot.
That's why that trailer is so funny. when you look it up on YouTube. Wings Hauser and Joey Travolta.
Yeah, the announcer says both names, I think, wrong.
Wrong.
Joy Travolta, Joy.
Yeah, Joy.
Joy.
Yeah. Maybe it's JOI or something.
Joy.
Yeah, that would explain it.
Yeah.
Now, one part that I did make it to in that movie was when the older brother comes back from college, and he's eating with the dad with his nice mustache, and the dad's complaining about how kids these days how horrible they are, and they're eating at that restaurant Alzato's. I was wondering if that's actually Lyle Alzado, the late football player and actor, if he had his own restaurant in LA that they were using, or if it just happened that the name was the same.
It's a great question. I'll just say it is.
Question. Yeah, I like to believe it is because he was involved in the action world and maybe there was a connection there. It's like, oh, we're making an action type movie. We'll get Alzado's and it'll work together.
So if you bought the Alfredo, it'd be the Alfredo Alzado's.
I suppose it would. Yes.
Yeah, you wonder, when they looked, the inside of it looked like your standard, Chinese restaurant buffet kind of place, with the chairs and everything. And maybe that's what it was. Maybe, Chinese restaurants, took over, failing Italian restaurants and just kept the decor the way it was. But it just reminded me of, when you go to those restaurants today that just have not been renovated since the 90s, and you could just really tell, oh, this is, this place looks like a place I would have gone to 30 years ago or 20 years ago.
And you could probably still get the chicken Alzado.
Yeah. Did you get to hear the song, the catchy 80s tune?
Yes. What was it? Something like "Don't Fight Tomorrow"? Or
try to stop tomorrow, I believe.
Don't try to start tomorrow.
Stop tomorrow, but whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's I didn't want to get into the whole thing because it just seems like it's a whole issue with physics and time and all of that to have to actually try to stop tomorrow. So yeah, it's too much for me to get my head around. So of course I wasn't going to try to stop tomorrow. I'm happy with just letting it happen. We've got other things to worry about. But maybe there are physicists out there that are actually trying to stop tomorrow.
Regardless of that, I'm sure Pat Benatar thought this is just too much for me. We need to pass this on to someone similar.
Well, she will be invincible. That's Pat Benatar, but we'll stop. Don't try to stop tomorrow.
Or your version, don't try to start tomorrow, which that would be tough.
That's also hard to do.
Right. Yeah. Physics is
similar.
It's one of those things with physics. It's maybe that's what the song should. I guess it probably wasn't as catchy to say "Don't try to stop physics," and so they.
Stop physics. I can't. It doesn't work. I can't.
Yeah. I remember Questlove from The Roots was talking about when he would be a part of kind of maybe more bigger budget productions, but TV shows and things like that, where they would say, we want you to do the theme song in the style of, whatever. We want it to sound like a Stevie Wonder song, but not actually be whatever it was that they would do. So you can just imagine the people that are making the Wilding going to, what was the woman's name? Tizania or something like that?
Yeah. You're right.
Yeah, going to her and saying we want this to sound like Pat Benatar, try to make it sound like Shadows of the Night or something like that. And she's okay, yeah, that sounds good. Don't try to stop tomorrow.
I think that is a common thing that happened in the low budget B direct to video world. It's obviously they can't afford these big songs because to license a big song costs an insane amount of money. So why not get an original song that is after the style of the other? I think it's something we see a lot. And sometimes these songs that are in the B versions are better than the originals.
What was that movie we watched? Was it something that looked like Pat Benatar, or is it just a song? It was Search for Vengeance?
Well, I believe it was one of the Matt Helge movies where we said the singer was Bat Benatar.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I like Bat Benatar. I can't even say that. Bat Benatar.
I love that though. That's fantastic. We have another Bat Benatar here doing this Wilding theme song.
Exactly. So that's a thing because there are a lot of movies with Bat Benatar-esque music in them, and this is one. Wilding is one of them.
It's one of the best ones. You can listen to it on YouTube or just watch the great trailer, or hopefully the movie's on YouTube.
It is. That's where I was watching. Good. I was watching it on YouTube. It's actually a good version of it. I think it's Master Lee's Dojo.
It's a good channel.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah, so I like I said, I probably got like another 45 minutes left of it. I started this morning and just didn't quite make it. I thought I was going to get there. But I mean, the thing that struck me about that movie too is, again, going back to Wings, being kind of crazy Wings, is that, I think there's always this thing that happens. I don't know, I'm not really up on modern stuff as much, but I'm assuming there's probably movies that are being made now about how horrible kids are today and how they're just, ruining the world, and they have no self-control and all that stuff. But you gotta feel like Wings and Joey Travolta growing up in like the 60s must have been watching like the movies that ended up being on like MST3K that were like World War II generation, or like the whatever before them, the silent generation, whatever, talking about how horrible kids were then, and how they were like just going out on crime sprees and like shooting up convenience stores and all of that stuff, and you gotta stop these horrible kids from doing this stuff. And when we watch it on MST3K, and it's like we're laughing at it, about these kids with the leather jackets and whatnot.
Well, and like I Accuse My Parents, I think that was an episode.
Yeah, exactly.
But that goes back to Plato and Socrates. Back in 3000 BC, they were saying, "Oh, those kids today," So it's something that will always be with us.
Yeah, get off my lawn,
Right, exactly. And so you wonder, like, I feel like Wings and Joey Travolta in particular were two that probably lived it up in their teen years. That they were out there causing some trouble. And maybe they weren't, holding up liquor stores or anything like that. But, I have to feel like they probably knew that kids were pretty bad back when they, and you wonder if either they were also tone deaf to it and they were just like, yeah, kids today are horrible, or if they were just like, this movie's ridiculous, but I'm with it. I'm just gonna do my part in it or something. That was kind of the thing that struck me, especially the way Wings was in it. I think he even joked about being a Republican, his character did, or something like that. But you couldn't tell if he was really serious or if he just was just trying to give Joey Travolta a hard time.
Well, it's unlikely they were children of violence, but as children of the wilding were, they probably didn't do that much wilding, at least as we knew it in 1990 or whenever that came out, because that was in the news. I think we've mentioned this before, how wilding was something that was in the news. It was something people were talking about. So like a lot of DTV things, they capitalized on what was in the news.
Right. I mean, that was the time, right? I mean, that was the late 80s where it was just like, oh, these kids that were like, I don't even know if they had the term Gen X at that time. I guess they were probably starting to come up with it or something. But this idea that these kids were so out of control that they had to raise the drinking age, and they had to, that was, I think kind of as the 90s went on, curfews started. It was like, boomers, I think, were just like, man, we can't, we don't want to do this whole parenting thing. We're going to have like the government help us out and come up with laws and stuff like that. And then I guess later the helicopter parent concept came into play, where maybe they just
it went too far. It went too far in the other direction.
Right. I just pictured the swooping sound. So the helicopter parent, or exploding helicopter parent.
It's kind of sad. We went from Siege of Firebase Gloria with actual helicopters to helicopter parents in one generation.
Right, yes. That would be point. Yeah, I never thought of that. That would be a great thing to get Will from Exploding Helicopter involved in. Exploding Helicopter Parent. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would imagine his parents are helicopter parents, because he's like the ultimate, exploding helicopter. They're raising a little helicopter up to adulthood.
Right. I wonder if they have the same term in England, helicopter parent, or if maybe there's like another, they have like another term for it, right? That maybe.
Yeah, that's true. They probably call him like a lorry parent or something.
Right. Yeah, there's something similar to, that they use. It's a slightly different term, but maybe they have the same concept. It's always interesting. I mean, we always think of these trends in the United States as being, our trends. I mean, I feel like there probably were like, British TV shows and movies and stuff that were doing the same thing, like how horrible kids are today, and yeah, and I think the thing that's great about the wilding is it sort of takes it to this AIP extreme level, where I mean, the car chase at the beginning was horrible, but everything else that happens around the car chase is hilarious. Like these kids just like robbing a liquor store and just like taking out, the guy just takes out a shotgun and blows away the store owner and stuff like that. And it's like, I think there was a real sense amongst adults in boomer adults at that time that that's what kids actually did. That they just went to liquor stores with shotguns and destroyed the place and shot up the place. And,
I do think there was more wilding in this than the other Wilding movie, Night of the Wilding, which, despite the title, didn't actually contain much, or if any, wilding.
It was, I don't think it was any. It was very limited.
Because wilding is in public, right? And if there was some sort of home invasion, but there was no actual outdoor wilding in that one. I think that, Wings and Joey, or Wings Hauser and Joy, had to actually deal with some actual wilding. So, I mean, it's a little more accurate if you want to get technical.
Well, the other thing too is that this had that scene that happens in the convenience store. That's a daytime wilding event. So maybe that was the other problem for that movie being the Night of the Wilding. They were limited to just when the sun set. They could only do wilding at that time. They kind of painted themselves into a corner by using the night of. Whereas the other film just being straight wilding, they could just put wilding in whenever they wanted to.
Yeah, it's true. That's good. They could wild around the clock.
Yeah, it's Wilding Out or whatever the show is.
Yeah, it's like a rap battle or something. Yeah.
Nick Cannon's Wilding Out.
Do they still do shows like that on MTV? Do they?
I don't know. I haven't checked the guide. Usually it's Jersey Shore or Jersey Days, what do they call it?
Yes.
It's like...
We see that ad. Yeah, my wife and I would sometimes watch Jersey Shore, like kind of the new ones, but we've kind of just stopped because I don't know, it's too.
Aren't they like 50 years old now? Why?
Right. Well, this is the thing is like they're in their 30s, but they act like they're in their 50s. The way that they, even though they drink a lot, like they go out and booze and stuff, but they act like they're like they've lived this hard, like they've been like they're so old when they're But yeah, like MTV keeps trying to pair like another reality show with them. So like one of them was like people that were like related to Staten Island mob figures or something. That like these kids that were like the descendants of Staten Island mobsters, and that one
called out work. Mob Days instead of Mondays.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So these kids seem to find. I don't know. But my wife and I, we stopped watching. We were watching Jersey Days. We were doing the Jersey Day thing. It had a nice feel of like, oh, the week is ending. Okay, it's Jersey Day, and but yeah, it's just
it's Jersey Day. Time to watch Jersey Shore.
Oh, it's almost the weekend. Yeah, it's Jersey Day. The weekend's coming. But yeah, no, it's just that was it.
Well, God forbid they play some freaking music videos on MTV. I mean,
nope.
That shows how old I am. I thought maybe they might play some music videos.
I just call me crazy.
That's the thing too, though. I was thinking about with MTV's. I think MTV was the first cable channel to stop being what their name was, right? Because remember in the 90s they stopped showing videos, and then it was like, okay, then A&E stopped being arts and entertainment. And they were just cops.
And the Learning Channel stopped being about learning.
Right. Yeah, then they had like some what's that dumb show? It's like Honey Boo Boo.
Right.
Oh, that was the death knell for the Learning Channel.
Yeah, like really, that's in the Learning Channel, Honey Boo Boo. It's like.
Right, I mean, remember Bravo, when Bravo first started, you could watch like old independent films, or like they would even actually show like theatrical things, like people like doing like things on stage and whatnot.
Right. Yeah, I remember that because Bravo was supposed to be about like it's supposed to be like highbrow, where you were like going to the theater, the legitimate theater.
Bravo.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
And then it got trashy with some reality shows and repeats of other shows.
Other shows that are reality. So.
Yeah, it's weird that so I think MTV really started it. We think of MTV as a trendsetter. I guess that's because they were like the ones that started the reality show movement with their reality shows, and I guess they also started the trend of cable channels not being what their actual names are.
That's true. That's a good point. I never thought about that. It's like, I've got an idea. Let's betray what our name is and then build up our entire following. Yeah, that seems like a great idea.
I could totally see that meeting too at the MTV offices, and Kurt Loder not so happy about this.
Yeah, like some corporate suit saying, we need a lot less of on music television. Music.
Yeah. And then
Kurt Loder leaves in disgust.
Yeah, he walks out.
Yeah. So just like, I can't believe this is happening. But then all these reality show producers come in and they're like, hey, we heard you got a time to fill. Let's see.
Yeah.
You got teen pregnant mom. Good. Let's do it.
And then, well, Kurt Loder landed on his feet because he was in Who's the Man as one of the bad guys.
Yeah,
so,
I showed you that picture of Mav. Like, he has a gun. Kurt Loder, that was amazing.
I think he turned 70 recently.
He looks amazing for 70. He looks exactly the same.
Yeah, it's amazing to think of, because Portlandia did this episode. I don't know if you've ever seen it, where they gather up some of the older crew from MTV, and it's like
really?
this. Yeah, I guess Fred Armisen and Carrie Brownstein play like these characters that want to like take back MTV and make it about music again, and so they get like.
Wow, I didn't even know that. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's a pretty funny episode. Like they get Kurt Loder and I think Tabitha Soren, and they go to like the MTV studios in New York and try to take it over.
But see, what's interesting about that is, so they figured, okay, here's what we'll do. We totally decimated music from our network. We'll start MTV2, and that'll be about nothing but videos.
Right.
Yeah, and like it wasn't about videos.
Having repeats in reality shows. It's like they can't stop themselves from not showing music videos. It's like they have to show something else. It's like the Sorcerer's Apprentice. They'll do MTV3, starts off with music videos, then it becomes something else. MTV4, same thing. So it's like they can't stop not playing videos.
I'm waiting for MTV 3 and 4. It was
well, because they took over VH1 Classic and they made it MTV Classic, and that one does show videos. They'll do like blocks of like 80s or blocks of metal.
Yeah, but they're getting lazy. They show the same dang videos.
Right. Well, and also I think the reality shows are starting to encroach on those as well, like because they were showing like old Real Worlds and things like that. I think they're starting to, and also they do a TRL thing too, which is like, I guess because it was the early 2000s, that's technically classic. But I always like my wife and I would joke that like whenever we talk about something that came out in like 2000, we think of it as a new movie still.
Well, that's how I think, but that just shows that I'm getting old.
Right, exactly. So,
yeah, go back to Wings.
I know. Yeah, well, that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, we kind of
warned people there would be diversions.
Right.
Yeah.
We had a feeling
that's true.
Wings brings so much crazy energy that it's hard not to be infected by it.
It's infectious. True. Wings Hauser is infectious. So we go from Wilding to MTV to MTV4. It's.
Yes. Well, speaking of Wilding, which one did you have next on your list?
I have The Killer's Edge.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so Wings Hauser, Karen Black, and of course, Robert Zadar.
Oh, yes. Yeah, actually, I'm right on it right now. Killer's Edge, a.k.a. Blood Money, right? Which is
Blood Money. I have the Killer's Edge one. I think the Blood Money is on DVD or something. I'm surprised it's on DVD.
I actually have the VHS as well. This is one of I have a very scant VHS collection, but this is one that I actually do have on VHS as well.
Well, yeah, because the box art is great. This is classic video store material here. This is like one of those boxes I was talking about earlier that you would pass by in your local video store.
It's like, The Killer's Edge. Oh, Karen Black, I've heard of her. Who's this Robert Zadar guy? He looks kind of odd. Hey, Wings Hauser.
So that's a reenactment of the thought process of the video store patron.
Yeah, that might have been me. But it's just like...
I kind of do the same thing though, especially when I would write reviews and things like that. Is I would think the same thing. It's like because it does it like one thing I love. I know we'll be doing plugs later, but with your Instagram where you're showing box art like that. Mm-hmm. When you show like old VHS box art that you have, from your collection, is you can kind of go through the thought process of like what the people putting the box art together were thinking in terms of what this is going to look like on the shelf, not knowing that chances are probably someone was just going to stack it, so it was just like the name on the side, they were going to make it flat, right? Exactly.
Well, it's funny because we were just talking about Ty. What's that Jerry Trimble movie with like the crazy
Stranglehold?
Yeah, if you look at the Stranglehold box, it's like they threw everything in the kitchen sink on that box, like with no rhyme or reason to the design of it. They just like, he's swaying in the air, and then there's a woman, and then there's a helicopter, and then it's just like, it's all there, but it's like, it's not, there's no like visual sense made of it. It's kind of fun to see.
Yeah, it's completely cluttered. I haven't posted that one yet because I just posted Eliminator Woman, and Jerry Trimble actually commented on the post.
You mentioned that.
Yeah, that's cool.
On the podcast, and I know we'll do plugs later, but on our most recent podcast, which is about Jeff Wincott, Ty tells the story of kind of getting to talk to Jerry Trimble.
Yeah, for a little bit. It's cool. And I have a few other Trimbles I'll post eventually, but I don't want to overload Trimble of more Trimble. So I'll wait. So.
We might do a Trimble podcast. So.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, Trimble podcast.
Yeah, Trimble is one. I mean, again, it's the energy of Wings that's getting us off on these tangents here. But he's definitely one that I think, looking at that period of like the early 90s, he has like some gems in there that are just so fantastic that I'm with you on that. I think we talked about him a bit on the Meathead episode too, because we were trying to.
Oh, we did.
Yeah, I think we were
okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, I think he came up as a potential meathead.
Is he a meathead?
I mean, there were people that are more meatheady.
No. Well.
No. Okay, I don't remember.
Me, it's like kind of like an Evan Lurie.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, we went over this for 90 minutes.
Oh yeah, we want let's go over it again for another 90 minutes.
but you know,
3 hours of meatheads.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing about Killer's Edge, I think, when you talk about that box art, is that you've got Robert Zadar with a rocket launcher, bazooka, whatever you call that weapon that he's using there. But it's the funny thing, when I did the Killer's Edge for the site, I didn't have the ability to get images from a VHS at that time, so I was trying to look for images online. At that time, I used to grab them from wherever, whereas like now I try to get them, make them myself. But I found an old tripod site about Robert Zadar that someone had done. And so you remember that old company tripod? It was like GeoCities or something like that.
Right, yeah. Or Angel Fire.
Angel Fire. That's the best one. Space Jam website.
Space Jam still around.
Exactly. Yeah, and I couldn't believe it. I think I looked it up recently. I think I was curious because I think I gave the person credit or something like that. But I think I looked it up. The site is still live. So hey, anybody wants to go down the nostalgia track, check out Killer's Edge on that tripod site about Robert Zadar. Great images. Yeah, but yeah, I mean the Wings in that one is another fantastic like Wings actioner. I think where he just
I agree. It's a solid movie. It's like Blood Money, and there's it's fun. It's just pure fun. He rented the video store. It's like, it's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a good cable, like a late night cable one too.
Oh yeah.
Did you see it on?
That's how I see it.
Oh, okay. If I saw it on cable, it would be kind of cool.
I don't think I did, but there are a lot of movies like that I kind of came across back when I had the pay channels back in the 90s. But maybe it's hard to say. Like I said, I know I saw American Cyborg Steel Warrior that way. That's one of the first movies of that kind that I saw, but that's not Wings related. So we can just move on.
You want me to move on to the next one, or you want to talk about Killer's Edge some more?
No, why not? I mean, I think probably the final word on Killer's Edge is for people that haven't seen it, see it, because it's
a good starter one, I'd say. Also,
yeah, for sure.
So, I have a kind of a similar one, which is Reason to Die. Mm-hmm. He's chasing a serial killer played by Arnold Vosloo. I thought that was pretty good. Solid thriller. Did you like that one?
I'm trying to think if I've done that one. Is that the same? Is that the same as Living to Die?
Oh, see, that's what makes it confusing. No, different movie.
Right. Okay, so I'm gonna page through here because I don't think I've seen Reason to Die. That one.
Oh, that's definitely a gap in your Wings collection.
Yeah,
prime Wings. That's 90s Wings all the way.
Right. Yeah, it's only on VHS also. So.
That might be why I haven't seen it, but I don't think I've done that. That's definitely one that I need to check out for sure. Obviously,
definitely. I'm sure you could find it in some streaming source, if not YouTube, maybe Tubi or something.
Yeah, Tubi. I love Tubi. I guess we're gonna go off a tangent for a second, but yeah, I was watching TNT. Did I tell you that, Matt?
Yes, you were telling me about that. I gotta check that
out. I dropped
out.
everything this weekend to just watch that. You gotta watch this. Well, Tubi's not so bad because the ads aren't so annoying like Crackle. So.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out how people with movies on Tubi make any money, because it seems like there's no ads, but maybe like you pay more for the ads, so that's why there's fewer.
Well, yeah, because you can sign in or register as a Tubi member, but I'm not going to do that.
Oh yeah, no, I've got a Tubi account. Yeah,
you have an official Tubi account.
I do with the watch list and everything.
You do? That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, you should add TNT to your watch list.
Oh yeah, no, that's coming. Yeah, I was telling Ty I haven't been back in Tubi in a while, and I was like, it feels like a daunting task because it's been a little while. So like, I'm gonna see everything that they've added, and
and it just happens to TNT. I've heard of that. Dropped everything. So it's like
for his 3 seasons of Mr. T, you're wearing a suit. He's
wearing a suit or a bow tie. It's a great theme song. Yeah, you gotta look it up. It's just great. So it's very catchy. I'm thinking about it now, but I won't sing it. But it's
yeah, I've got to get back in and check that one out. I think we were talking about the one that we really want to see get added is Cobra. So hopefully sometime soon. If you're listening, Tubi, I don't know if I'm like it's like it's a person, Tubi. That's like
Bobby Tubi.
Yeah, Tubi. Phil Tubi is listening to this,
Tubi.
and
Phil Tubi.
But speaking of songs, you did come up with this song for "Reason to Die." No, I don't want to put you on the spot.
The "Reason to Die." Oh, yeah. Okay, I can do that. Yeah, sure. So, okay, hold on. Let me get ready. Okay, you finally found a reason to die.
I'll be playing over like the closing credits.
Yeah, closing credits. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Well, I can go right to the next one, which is definitely a Wings classic, Street Asylum.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
So that's a good one. So,
I mean, who wouldn't want to see Wings teamed up with G. Gordon Liddy in a movie directed by a porn director?
Yes.
You really can't go wrong. No, not at all.
I remember I got this one on VHS. So this is another one of my.
Yeah, same here.
I don't. My small VHS collection is very Wings heavy, I guess.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Only Wings movies. That's great.
Right, exactly. But the funny thing is, I remember watching this with my friends, and like we just thought it was like, for lack of a better term, we thought it was dumb. We were just like, what is going on here? Like, there's that scene where he discovers he has some tracking device in his neck, and he just goes into a bathroom stall and takes it out.
I kind of remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, we were just like, what is going on? And then the movie's like trying to give us this message, and we're like, how can you try to tell us a message when you've got crap like somebody doing, low-level surgery in a bathroom stall to take out, implanted devices or something? And so I said that in the review. At that time I was a little bit harsher with my reviews than I am now. I'm a little bit more sympathetic to the people making the films, and I'm more just talking about like what was the entertainment value for me, and to give it an idea. But the person, I think it was the director or somebody who was involved, maybe a screenwriter or somebody.
Yeah, I think it was the writer, right?
Yeah, he commented and he was like, "Oh, sorry you didn't like it, but I think these themes are more important today than before." And I was like, you know what? I was really harsh on that, so I'm just going to let his comment stand. I'm not going to, even just kind of say like, okay, just leave his comment there because I was harsh. But I remember like it was bad fun, I think, for my friends and I. But when the message comes in, I think when the movie has a message, I think for my friends and I at that time, we took that a little bit more personally than we probably should have. That it was like, stop trying to tell me your message when you're doing stuff like that. And I think when I look at it now, I get a kick out of the message. Like, was it Omega Cop where Adam West does the big message about global warming? Right.
Yeah.
Like, I think we have more fun with that now. I think at that time, I think my friends and I were just like, who does this person think they are giving us a message? And so that was. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I do agree. It's kind of like the older you get, I think the more forgiving you are with things. When you're young and angry and you hate the world, that's one thing. But then when you grow up, you realize, hey, it took a lot of work and a lot of time and a lot of effort to make these movies. Which is why I've kind of grown out of watching Mystery Science Theater. It's like, okay, so you're sitting there and you're making fun of something that someone, probably mortgaged their house several times to make, and they're putting their heart and soul into it. Something about that, it kind of like bothers me now. I definitely have more of an appreciation. I mean, I always had an appreciation, but I really give lots of things a benefit of the doubt. So I definitely see what you're saying when it comes to that.
I do want to mention about Street Asylum about the writer, because he wrote on our site too.
Yeah, he was a lot because your review was a lot nicer, right? So he was a little bit
nicer. We were nicer to it. So I can read. Let's see. I have it right here. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So thank you for your coverage of Street Asylum. As the writer of Street Asylum, I can give you some background. We only were able to afford G. Gordon Liddy for a couple of days. So.
But he's front and center on the box art even more than Wings.
So, yeah, John Powers is his name. So there's more to the comic. I don't want to read the whole thing, but G. Gordon Liddy only for a few days, but they packed a lot of G. Gordon.
He sure did. Almost as much as Rosalind Capital.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm G. Gordon Liddy.
Yeah.
Invest your gold at Rosalind Capital.
I mean, do you wonder now with the current, with the Trump administration and all the scandals, that kind of, it's
too
kind
many
of like
scandals. Okay.
Oh, we got Trump here today. So.
I made it. I love G. Gordon Liddy. Okay. Terrible guy. Nixon administration.
So maybe since we have Mr. Trump here, or President Trump here, yeah. I mean,
Sure.
who do you think administration would be the next G. Gordon Liddy out of because people compare
Okay,
Nixon to Trump.
maybe Mike Pompeo. Maybe me. Okay, I'll get back to you on that now.
Oh boy.
But don't you feel like there could be like because I mean out of that when we think of like Nixon people compare the Trump administration to the Nixon administration because of like a lot of the stuff that was happening there, and I wonder if there's somebody there like
I got the answer.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I don't know much about this guy. I actually don't know what he looks like, so I don't know if he has the movie star good looks, but he definitely has the name, Chad Wolf.
Oh,
that's an awesome name.
There is a guy in the Trump administration named Chad Wolf, and I definitely think if he wants to, he could go down the DTV acting route just on the name alone.
Yeah, maybe that's the one. Maybe he's the G. Gordon Liddy of this.
Yeah,
this administration.
He would. I could see him. He can, rise up the ranks and then maybe, be like fifth billing in a Nicolas Cage movie on Redbox.
Well, that's how we all started. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, that's the pinnacle. It's fifth billing on a Nicolas Cage Redbox movie. So it's like
that's the pinnacle. Come on, set your sights a little higher.
Fine. Third billing.
Okay.
G. Gordon Liddy also did a Miami Vice episode, which also had Dalrymple. What was that? Bob Balaban was in it as well. So you never know if like that's where you got to get your start, right? It's maybe like a TV action show on CBS, and then you move up to. Because I was trying to think of, I don't know if any other channels have action TV shows other than CBS. It seems like they're the only ones who are doing them right now.
Well, yeah.
Well, I mean, there's always been syndication. Which G. Gordon Liddy, wasn't he in that movie or that show you're looking for, Ty? 18 Wheels of Justice.
Yes, he was on 18 Wheels of Justice. Amazing show about a crime-fighting trucker. I never had to watch it. It's $100+ on online retailers.
Wow.
I won't say them because I want people to take it. But it's just like hopefully someone will
You're
say
not
them.
gonna buy it for $100. Let them buy it for $100.
I'm not buying that for $100. I'll buy it for $20 each season.
Yeah.
But for some reason, it's $100. That G. Gordon Liddy show on online.
Yeah, 18 Wheels of Justice, G. Gordon Liddy, and Billy D. Williams, and like some himbo named like I don't know, I forget the himbo's name. Chad Wolf. No, I can get the name, but
Yeah. I love the idea of 18 Wheels. There are so many great shows that were it's like amazing, and they're just waiting to be put on DVD for us to
I know.
Yeah.
It's on DVD, 18 Wheels of Justice.
All right.
But it's $100. Like, how about a Blu-ray for like $24.99?
Right. Yeah. Or Tubi. What do you Tubi?
Hey. I didn't check that on Tubi. If it's on Tubi, I'll drop everything right now. I'll get off this podcast and watch it.
You'll even drop TNT?
Well, I'll have to finish that first. Then I'll go right to dropping that and then going to
Right.
Wow.
Lucky
As Shakespeare said, to be or not to be.
Yeah. Yeah, Lucky Vanus. That's the himbo guy. There's Lucky Vanus as the main character, G. Gordon Liddy, and Billy D. Williams.
That's amazing. That's an amazing cast and a great concept, and that should be more, widely accessible.
I know. I'd love to see it. I think there's that. Oh, of course, there's Land's End with Hunter himself, Fred Dryer.
Fred Dryer. Yes.
Did you get to watch that one?
No,
Or High Tide. I think I had Rick Springfield.
High Tides, I do remember. That one I do.
Marker. Did you get to watch Marker?
I don't know.
As Richard Grieco?
Well, let's turn this ship around because I think Wings was in an episode of Marker.
He sure was.
He had to have
I've
been,
seen it. Because Marker was on YouTube, and I just watched all the Markers. Well, a couple years
really?
ago.
Oh, I got to check that one out.
Hopefully it's still on there. That was like 2 years ago I watched it, but it's like, Wings Hauser's on Marker?
Yeah, I'm always a big Grieco fan. So, and I mean, Grieco and Wings together, I think, I know Art Camacho, I don't know if he listens to our podcast here, but I know he directs a lot of movies with Richard Grieco. Maybe you just got to put the word out to Wings and you can make that combination that we've been wanting, the Grieco. I don't know if maybe we've been wanting it, but I just talking about it now.
I think it's safe to say we've been wanting it.
Yeah, Grieco and Wings, that would be,
I would love to see that. And then I have, of course, now a Wings classic. We already talked about this a little bit, which is The Art of Dying. Is my next on my list.
Yeah,
right, and that's in there with that primetime PM, the era that we all love from the classic video store or cable movie.
it's just like, this looks cool, and it's a cool movie. It's like a serial killer on the loose, right? I'm trying to remember the plot a little bit.
Right, and he was doing
kind of like stages.
murders.
He gets like these actresses that come to Hollywood, and he kind of lures them into killing them on a stage.
Yeah, very sneaky.
Right, because I thought Kathleen Kinmont. Spoiler alert for anybody. Maybe you want to skip ahead 30 seconds here, but I thought like Kathleen Kinmont's death. What the killer was trying to kill her was supposed to be like Joan of Arc, I think, or something like that.
Right. Yes, I think you're right. Yes.
Yeah. But he was doing like famous. I think he did like one of them was a Psycho. He killed somebody like in the style of Psycho. I think
that sounds familiar. Yeah, I watched it a couple years ago. Now I might have to rewatch it again.
I know. I'll pull up my review here, I guess. But I mean, of course, the scene that everybody remembers is the love scene with Kathleen Kinmont with the food, like milk just dropping everywhere. It's just it's a lot.
I'll call it 9.5 wings.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Oh,
I just thought of that.
To apology to Kathleen Kinmont, I referred to her as Bobby Sixkiller's sister in Renegade when I did the review. That was in September of 2007. So not good of me there that I was not referring to her as Kathleen. So again, I think back then I was just trying to be funny when I was making these reviews, as opposed to giving the actors and actresses their due in the role. So that's definitely a mea culpa there. I should be referring to her as Kathleen Kinmont, not Bobby Sixkiller's sister from Renegade.
Right. Right. Yeah, I see what you're saying, but yeah, I mean, I think that's a classic Wings, and
definitely another worth watching. That's definitely a top Wings, and then we have another top Wings. It's a really crazy one, which is Get Even.
Oh, I don't know.
Which is aka Road to Revenge. Mm-hmm. He's insane in that one, and then our mutual friend on Instagram, Hillbillies_horror VHS. Mm-hmm. I was telling him that this podcast. And he said, to remind people that his favorite scene in Get Even was when Wings was shooting like dollar bills. And I have it right here. So he's shooting his bills and Get Even. It's like I kind of remember that, but the best part of the movie, of course, is that song. Well, you haven't seen Get Even, Matt.
Right? No, I haven't seen it yet. This is one I need to see for sure.
Oh,
yeah.
Ty dropped what he was doing so we could watch TNT. You should drop what you're doing. Yeah. I mean, finish Wilding, but then the next movie you watch should be Get Even, which is one word in quotes. Get Even in quotes, or AKA Road to Revenge. Find it under either title. This movie is a gem and a half. This is it's so much fun. Like if you like movies such as Samurai Cop, Miami Connection,
American Kickboxer 2.
Yeah, that sort of movie, which right now I don't think there's a word for that type of movie, but there should be.
Yeah.
This is one of them. And basically it's made by this guy, John DeHart, who's a lawyer, and he just made his own movie and put himself in as the main star.
We won't say anything else that happened, because let's just say there's something very funny.
Okay. I mean, there's a lot of funny things. And his wardrobe alone. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds amazing. Like, the idea of it sounds fantastic. It's called Get Even, all one word.
Yeah,
or Road to Revenge.
Yeah, Get Even. It sounds like it's you need a space. When I set up this list, I spaced it because I was like, I can't.
Most word programs will correct you on that.
Yeah, they expected me like I'll just space it.
But not John DeHart. John DeHart is beyond Microsoft Word changing his vision. But yeah, just Matt, make sure you see it. Listeners, make sure you see it if you haven't. It is a winner. I mean, you want to talk about being totally entertained. Yeah. Like, sometimes you're watching a movie and you're kind of checking the time, or, there's a slow part. That doesn't happen in Road to Revenge, aka Get Even. You will be entertained start to finish. I guarantee it.
You will laugh. It's like you will be on the floor laughing at one big scene. And the scene that our buddy mentioned there too. Okay. So the wing stuff is great, and then a certain thing when he's on a stage is great. I just want to give it away.
Okay.
Right.
And then
my directing, starring, and just creating himself in this movie wasn't enough. He actually kind of like puts himself on a stage and sings a song, and that is definitely a movie highlight.
Yeah, we won't say what song he sings, what he's doing.
What it looks like, what his facial expressions are. We won't mention anything about that.
Yeah.
This is I'm seeing. Oh my god! I just saw the cover here. This looks amazing. This guy's mustache.
Yeah,
he looks like he looks like a younger, like, poor man's William Smith.
Well, he's in the movie too.
I can see that.
William Smith's in the movie as well. Oh yes, there he is. Nomad.
Yeah, Nomad.
I think William Smith has played a guy named Nomad in at least 50 movies. But yeah,
he always plays a nomad. Or what's that movie we watched, Last of the Warriors? So it's like,
yeah. Well, he was kind of nomadic in that.
Yeah. I have one more, Wings. Unless you want to keep talking about Get Even, but.
No.
Well, because you haven't seen it, I think we should put a lid on it.
Okay. All right. That's. I mean, I think for everybody out there that maybe we need to add this one to our like must watches.
Yeah.
I'm gonna definitely see if this thing is on YouTube or something, because this is just.
I hope so.
It looks amazing. Like.
Well, it was on Prime. It wasn't Amazon Prime at one time.
Years ago. But
I don't know if it still is, but if you have Amazon Prime, check that. I'm sure you could find it, but you got to find it, and it needs a Blu-ray release stat. It's got to come out on Blu-ray.
Wings' hat and this cover is just amazing.
If you like, I know. I'm looking at the cover now. He has a great hat. It's like It's great. He's really great in it because he's like a kind of a drunkard.
Yeah,
and it's like it's good. It's a good role for Wings. It's kind of junky.
He's got a Corona in front of him. It looks like.
Oh, you can't say that word anymore.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, he's got a beer from Mexico.
Yeah.
He's got an unknown beer. Man, you might have to bleep that if you can do that in post.
He has a beer from Mexico. You're right. Yeah, I think
that isn't Dos Equis or Sol or Modelo.
It's a light color, almost a yellow. Is the color? It's almost a yellow. Yeah. It's a lime in.
Yeah. You can't say the name because it's related to something that's really annoying. So it's like
you're right. I think if I ever put these, because I was thinking about putting the podcast on YouTube, with my YouTube channel. That's a good point. If I ever decide to put this episode on YouTube, I think that can get your podcast demonetized.
Really? I was just kidding.
No, I think if you mention the virus, if you mention, the virus that doesn't get transferred on 3.5 floppy disks is what I should again.
Right. No, you're obviously talking about Con Air.
Cyrus the virus or anything else. Virus of Brian Bosworth, not that other thing that you might
Right. Yeah. But I think you can get demonetized. I mean, I don't know if you're talking about the beer, if it's obviously, but I think what it is like, I think what I'd have to do is I'd have to say, no, I was talking about the beer, and then they would let it go, because I think it's like an auto system, like an algorithm or something that's just like, or a bot that like picks up on terms. I don't think it's anybody like actually watching them, but I think they.
But that's still pretty Big Brother-ish. I mean, it's not even a human being; it's just a robot who's going to make you grovel and say, "No, master, it wasn't a virus. I'm not allowed to talk about. Please let me."
Right. Well, because they don't want me to be like saying, they don't want me to use terms like Lorenzo Lamas, I think, one time tagged one of his photos "plandemic." They don't want those kinds of terms being used to describe it.
You can't say that. You can't say Corona. You can't say any of that. Well, but it's just like beer.
Yeah.
Can you? I don't know if you can talk about like eye, parts of the eye or the sun.
Right.
A lot of different ways that we use that term. So I never really thought about it.
That's funny. Yeah.
Yeah, and sure enough, Wings got me into it. And the funny thing too is the bottle on the cover is turned the opposite direction, so it's technically not. We don't know what brand it is. It's just
right.
Yeah. So.
Well, I think is that the cover where it has John DeHart with a gun and he's wearing like this he's wearing like a black tank top, but he's not that ripped. He has more of like what you might call a dad bod.
Right. Yeah, with a mustache. With the mustache.
And it's like, it's something that, Chad McQueen might wear or something.
Right.
Well, Chad McQueen definitely has an aversion to sleeves. That is definitely a fact.
Maybe that was what he was going for.
I'm going for the Chad McQueen here.
Chad McQueen. I want to get the Chad McQueen shirt.
But he looks very intense, and
that's exactly
you don't want to mess with him.
Yeah.
Well, I'm on my last one here, which is I just want to keep talking about Chad McQueen.
Please. Yeah.
Okay, so we have the classic L.A. Bounty.
Yes.
Yeah. So Wings versus Sybil Danning.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about a team up we've always wanted to see.
And it delivered the goods. It was awesome. Ruger.
Yeah, Ruger. Yeah, a great movie, very entertaining movie. Worth Keeter, the director, probably his best movie. Just really great video store era stuff. I know I've been saying that a lot, but it's true. I mean, this is when Wings was really in its prime and video stores were in their full kind of flower. So this was, I definitely would recommend LA Bounty to the utmost if anyone hasn't seen it.
Well, yeah, Wings was, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say that Wings was an excellent villain, Kavanaugh.
Right. Yes, I love that name. Which, of course, now that name has a different connotation too with the Supreme Court. And everything.
Brett Kavanaugh, he's a great Supreme Court justice.
Right, it's like a combination of me,
you're Brett,
and him playing Kavanaugh. So it's ahead of its time.
Yeah. Now, on my review, actually, the very first thing I say about this film is that I first got wind of it from your site. Yeah. So I think the link though. I think the link I have is the Comeuppance.reviews.com link. So I have to probably change those.
Yeah. You might have to switch that. Well, you have to actually.
Yeah, that's why I've stopped putting the links in, and I just said check out their site for that because I used to put the links, but I have the same thing. All my Matt Movie Guy ones don't work anymore, so it's all.
Yeah. When we post a review on our site and you have something, we get your link. So I go to your site and link it.
Yeah,
I mean we're going to be ComeuppanceReviews.net for the foreseeable future, so we're not going to change again. So if you were to ever go through the effort of changing it, I think you can feel pretty safe that you could change it to .net and that's it. It would be a one-time thing.
I dealt with that red tape and it's all over with, so it's .net.
But that's kind of like, I hate to keep mentioning this, but to my knowledge, this is the only time this has happened. But when they pulled our quote for the Blu-ray of Gang Wars, aka Devil's Express, it says ComeuppanceReviews.com. So if anyone gets that Blu-ray, they're going to go to that and they're going to see a dead site, which I kind of don't like. And I actually emailed Code Red about it, but I don't know if they're going to do anything about it as far as future editions, which there is going to be. So, yeah. So that's the thing about changing from .com to .net. Like if it's on like a Blu-ray, like if they use it, there's no changing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can't recall it.
Right.
Yeah. Well, they are doing a new version of it, so like a new edition of it. So I told them, if you have the ability to, please change it to .net, but they didn't respond. So I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. I never thought of that because I don't think anything of mine has had the actual site. It just has the name, direct-to-video connoisseur.
That's good. DTV that's good for you.
Yeah,
so that way you can change almost anything, and then people, if they Google that, then they'll just go to whatever the site is that works. Yeah, so that actually is good in your favor.
Well, what movie was that you have your plug on?
So it was the Minion with the Dolph Lundgren.
Oh, that's a very high-profile movie.
Yeah, I put on the blog. I said this is too amazing for words. Kind of tongue in cheek because obviously, he's walking around with a spike glove, like attacking the he's a KGB trained Knights Templar. It's like all kinds of ridiculous stuff. But I was like, this movie's too amazing for words, and I was talking about how how much fun it was, with all the ridiculous stuff happening in it. And so somebody who followed the site actually took a picture of it. It's on a 3-pack with like 2 other movies, and cool. I guess they were just scraping the barrel to try to find something good about the Minion, and they just put too amazing for words. Matt Foyer, direct-to-video connoisseur, and
that's amazing.
Yeah.
I think we might have a plug on Army of One. Mm-hmm. We might. At least I got the link. Someone sent me a link. Yeah, I'll double check that. I got a link from it, and it might be the .com thing. I'm not sure, but Dolph likes our site.
Was the only one.
Yeah,
I think Army of One too, and I'll double check that though. But yeah, Dolph likes our sites. So that's pretty cool.
So both of us have a quote on a Dolph product?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Wow. Okay, that's cool. I did not know that.
Yeah.
I think in the that Sam Furstenberg book, that massive book about all the I can't remember now I can't remember what it's called, which is horrible. I had plugged it originally, but you and I we each have our own mention of a review in there. And I think the one that was a mention of yours, I think it said Comeuppance Reviews. I don't think it said .com or .net.
Okay, well, that's good. Because you type that in, it'll come up. So
Yeah. I think we both, it's not the actual website. Yeah, that one's interesting because if you look through that one, Mitch, the video vacuum, he has a ton of.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Yeah, I thought it was great. Like I think it was
That's
like
great for Mitch. Mitch rules, by the way.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, people, checking out the Video Vacuum.
Awesome dude.
Yeah, always great stuff, and he's always good. Because also his books, I think I recently bought his horror book, Bloody Book of Horror. So people that are looking for additions to your horror book collection, on Amazon, Mitch Lovell, Bloody Book of Horror. That's always a great one as well. Yeah. Yeah, but we kind of got. I feel bad. I feel like and I feel like if Mitch was listening to us, he'd be upset that we were not talking about Civil Tanning and Wings Hauser. Like,
okay, we go back to Wings Hauser, but I'm out of movies on my list. I mean, still about LA Bounty, which is there should have been a sequel because Ruger, played by Sybil Danning, definitely has potential.
Yeah.
Yeah, a great character. She could have been like a female Dirty Harry or something to that effect.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, the gun shoots a guy's hand off.
Yeah,
that was amazing. That's what puts this movie into a new category and not just a standard thing. It's like something better.
Yeah, it's like, this movie rocks. That's what I thought. Like, it was awesome. And I got it for like 25 cents. Wow. And it's just like, I couldn't believe, this movie's really good. It's very underrated.
I don't know if I own this one or if I think I may have picked it up. I don't know if I picked if I bought this myself. I mean, again, this was one that it was like I saw your review and I was like, well, I gotta check this thing out. And
because
when you need more wings,
worth watching. So we can just keep talking about that LA Bounty. Kavanaugh.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just want to talk. Didn't Kavanaugh? He paints evil paintings or something like that.
Yeah, which is not that dissimilar from Art of Dying.
That's a good point.
Yeah, he's like the bad guy. He's not the in this, but it's the same idea. Right, because he kills her partner, and so then
right.
And then he's holding the mayor. I mean, this is one of those films where you're talking about where it's like he can be such a great baddie just as much as he can be a great hero or great good guy. It's like, for Sybil Danning, like he plays the right kind of baddie to.
It was exactly. Yeah, he's perfect.
And I mean this in the best possible way. I mean, he chews that scenery like Doublemint gum. I mean, he chews it, which is great. I mean, it's awesome. He's very over the top, and that's that Wingsy kind of way that we want.
You can't help but love it.
I think this is another one for people that are out there. Like, what it seems like. I mean, obviously, most of the ones we're talking about, these are like must wings films. But
nice, must wings.
Must wings. Must wings. But this one, I think, is definitely another one that's like, because I think for people out there that like the kind of movies that we talk about, Wings is kind of like he's one of the ultimate of that star kind of person. You don't talk about him a lot because he's not the kind of like martial artist or like kind of like the big hulking hero type that we talk about with a lot of these films. But for that period, that late 80s, early 90s period, they're really you kind of take the Pepsi challenge with Wings' filmography with anybody else out there. And
definitely. And I mean, I guess I would throw in an honorable mention of Nightmare at Noon.
Yeah, another great one.
Because that's a lot of fun, and it has a great cast as well. I mean, Wings is supported by a lot of people like Brian James and I think George Kennedy. And it's a Masterakis movie, and it has that unbelievable stunt where the guy's like flying through the air on a motorcycle on fire.
Those Masterakis movies that he did, I think Nightmare at Noon might be a good one for people to start with, because I think it's probably like the closest to what we talk about for movies. So for people that are fans of those kinds of things, I think Nightmare at Noon is going to be like your closest. Then you can maybe branch off to like The Wind or some of the other ones.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Right. And then I mean, unless you're a horror fan or like you like exploitation, then I would say Island of Death. But that movie is not for everybody. So. But what's good about Nightmare at Noon is it kind of is like this melange of like horror, sci-fi, and action and Western. It's like 4 genres kind of like, blended together in a blender, and it's like really entertaining.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. I think because I was thinking of I was thinking for honorable mentions. I think that might be because I was trying to think of a good Nico Masterakis to have on the list, and I think that one's a little bit better than The Wind. I love The Wind too. I mean, the white sweater that Wings has in that.
It's an amazing sweater.
Yeah.
That's part of the movie. The sweater steals the movie.
But The Wind is a pretty interesting movie. I mean,
it's a good movie.
Very,
I don't think it's a bad movie.
No, I know, but I just think the whole concept and whole execution is very kind of unusual and different, and it's definitely offbeat in a good way. It's not like a standard movie of any kind. It's not, you know what I mean? It's not like a standard drama or horror or whatever. It's like it's its own thing.
Yeah. Masarakis, I think he's one of those directors that we think of like kind of like the sort of like the low budget director, but that still kind of puts out is trying to put out a good project, or is a legitimate director. They're a director. They're not someone who's just sort of been tasked with directing a low budget film. Yeah, and I think he works really well with Wings. Meg Foster is also he does really well with her as well. And,
tremendous. Love Meg Foster.
Yeah, I think that I think with the Wings movies, I think like you said, The Wind is more of an interesting one compared to Nightmare at Noon, which is like it's that movie that it's just Nightmare at Noon, of course, also has a lot more people in it that people recognize, and it's a kind of a fun romp kind of film. Where it's like The Wind is more about setting and style and
mood.
Yeah, and I mean Wings nails it. I think it's almost like certain directors seem to just get what Wings does, and they just like go for it.
Yeah,
Wings
really
loose.
Masterakis. Yeah. He lets Wings fly.
Yeah. No, we didn't mention. We knew one winging it kind of pun, which is good. I had to sneak it in.
We did. Yeah. Well, that was the other thing too. I was thinking about with Wings is we kind of I have a couple of honorable mentions, but one thing we had talked about I think on a previous podcast was the idea of Wings. With the proliferation of Wings places and in places selling like buffalo wings and things like that, like how has there not been a tie-in with him? Where someone's just like let's get Wings Hauser to sell our wings.
Maybe there has, and he said no. Like if Buffalo Wild Wings came to him, because he is wild, and that would be perfect. I don't think he's from Buffalo, but still, I think he would be perfect. But someone must have had that idea, and he probably said, no, I'm not doing it. Yeah. Kind of like Treat Williams. Why didn't Treat Williams do something for like a candy company and say, have a treat with Treat? I don't know.
Yeah. They seem so obvious. Maybe that's what it is. I mean, one of the things actually when you think about Wings, like the food versus Wings Hauser, is that the wings themselves, they're very like unfulfilling food, right? It's like you get you crave them. You're like, oh, I really want a thing of wings. This would be really great. And it's like, you eat like 5 of them, and it's like there's barely any actual meat in the 5 wings, and it's like it's still hungry after. I think where Wings Hauser is a very fulfilling, it's like, you watch a Wings movie, you feel full after watching a Wings movie.
I think that's very well said, and I think the fact that you even thought that is why people must listen to your podcast, because whoever would have made that connection, I color me impressed.
I can't even, I'm speechless. Can't respond to that.
But maybe that's why Wings doesn't want to do a commercial. He's like, you know what? I'm not Wings. I'm I am very you get your money's worth with me.
I satisfy the people.
Yeah. But you say that my name's not Wings anymore. It's Wingsington or something.
Oh yeah, he's trying to be more classy. Yeah.
Wingsington. I like that.
Wingsington Hauser.
Yeah. I just had to do my rant on but I don't know.
They ran chicken wings,
right? I mean, they're good, right? Chicken wings are great, but it's just like, it's like you eat 5 of them and you're like, did I even eat anything? I just like.
The thing is, it's almost like sushi. Like if you eat a lot of it, obviously you're going to be full, but then it starts to get pretty expensive because then you're buying a lot more food than you maybe should. So it's like, yes, you could fill yourself up with wings. It might take a little more work, but you'd have to buy more, and pretty soon you're spending $35-$40 on wings for one meal. I'm not doing that.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's like, the bucket. You're getting a bucket of wings, and like, what are you really eating with a bucket of wings? But you spent all this money.
I refuse to eat out of a bucket. I am a human being. I am not an animal, and I mean, call me a snob, but I would rather have a plate.
Yeah, plate's good, or no bucket eating. Okay.
What's next? A trough? Am I supposed to stick my face in the thing? I mean,
yes, that's how we bobbing for wings, like bobbing for apples.
But see, like you can at least eat the apple when you're bobbing. You know, like even an apple has more like food in the actual apple than a wing. It's like, yeah, especially like the yeah. I mean, either way, like you're getting, it's more bone than anything. It's like bone and yeah, it's like yeah. I don't know. Apparently like the story that I read about how buffalo wings first started was some woman that ran a restaurant in Buffalo. Like her teen son and his friends were hanging out at the restaurant. She needed to find something for them to do, and so she had like these leftover wings, and so she just doused them in Louisiana hot sauce and said, "Here, have these." And in a way, that kind of makes sense, right? Because it's you know it takes some work to eat wings, so you're going to be busy eating them. You know, it's like there's two hands to eat them. You've got to get all the meat out of them.
Yeah, too much work. That's why I get boneless wings.
Right.
You might want to try boneless, or maybe you're just going to the wrong wing places. You know, maybe the ones you've tried in the past haven't done it. Maybe you need to like try a better one.
You could be right. It just seems like even when I get some when they're it's like they're good. It's just like I'm like but the amount of food that I'm getting for them. I guess you gotta maybe get something like fries or something to go with them. So I've got like some like heavy potato
fries or maybe a drink. Maybe a soft drink.
Yeah,
some like onion rings, if you really want to go crazy.
Well, because I think it's why they're in the appetizer category, right? Is you're supposed to just have a few and then you do your hamburger or whatever.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So, that's true. If you look at most menus, they are with the appetizers. That is true.
You don't get wings as a meal.
Right. Yeah. And I guess that makes sense with Wings Hauser. He's not an appetizer. He's the main.
No, he is not. He's the main course.
Right. And so that's why he's more fulfilling. Now, a couple of movies a couple of honorable mentions for me on the Wings category. So one of them is we actually talked about this when you mentioned Reasons to Die was Living to Die is a personal favorite of mine. Another one of the PM Entertainment ones that he directed also has Arnold Vosloo in it. So it's maybe he just did them both at the same time. I'm not sure. And just
came around the same time.
Yeah.
And the titles are very similar.
Yeah. It's kind of like a film noir type thing where he plays the the detective who doesn't know who he can trust and is kind of being led around and
right. Asher Browner.
Yeah, so every time he goes to a bar he orders like a whiskey with a beer back, I think it is, or something, and it's like only Wings can order drinks that way, I think. Like I'm sure in the past, like, everybody ordered drinks that way at one time, but now it feels like Wings is the only person who can get away with it. Like if I mean, maybe Dolph, maybe he could, and I guess Fred Williamson can get away with anything. So maybe he can smoke in a hospital, like, and he did in One Down, Two to Go. So I guess but there aren't many who can order drinks that way.
I think you are touching upon something more profound than maybe even you realize, which is that Wings and other action stars, but certainly Wings, so he's the topic of the day, represent a sort of manhood that doesn't really exist anymore. He's sort of like a forgotten type of masculinity that does not really come to the fore as much as it used to. People talk about how, America is becoming weaker, softer, with these beta males and stuff, and these wimpy guys like Pajama Boy. Wings represents the older school type of man. And I think, his ordering of a drink that way might seem, inconsequential, but really, I think it points to that sort of old school manhood that is not really around anymore.
Well, yeah, because you think about like action leads or people that are like leads in movies now, they don't look like Wings Wings did back then, right? And Wings was just kind of like a bigger guy. I mean, he was taller. He's like 6 foot something, and was probably like over 200 pounds. But he wasn't like ripped or cut. And you either have to be The Rock, or you have to be Liam Neeson, and they edit the film in a way that makes it look like you're The Rock.
Or you're like a younger kid, like a Sean Locke, where you're like some kid who's like 20 years old and he, is on his cell phone and has a plastic water bottle with him at all times. It's
right. I think you're right. I think when we talk about these movies from the late 80s, early 90s, there is like a guy's guy kind of thing to it that. You're right. Like it's nowadays we don't celebrate that kind of guy's guy the way we did back then. And maybe there's terms like toxic masculinity that are associated with it. But I don't really know with Wings that he was ever that toxically masculine in those roles that he did. He was there, but it was a very guy's guy kind of thing, and he. You're right. Like, we don't see that in movies nowadays. That I think one of the reasons why Cobra Kai is resonating with a lot of people is William Zabka's, Johnny Lawrence character is being a throwback to that. He's that guy. He's, drinking his beers, and he's, driving the American muscle car, and he's, kind of stuck in the 80s. And I think you're right. I think there's a part of us that still likes that character, that Wings person that's kind of larger than life, but not anything like crazy. Like, he's not like, completely cut or anything like that.
Right. And I that is my thesis about all these movies and about a lot of these actors, is that I think that's what we're drawn to, because we're missing that these days. That's why we keep going back to these 80s and 90s movies and earlier, because that's something that's missing, and we're drawn to it maybe because that's not just missing but needed these days. So that's why we're doing a podcast about Wings. Why? I think that might be the root of it all.
Yeah. I mean, what did you? Yeah, I was going to jump in, but I don't know if you had something.
Oh no, I was going to just agree with both of you guys. We need Wings now more than ever.
It's true. And yeah, that's right. Well, I do think, you're saying that's why Cobra Kai is resonating. I do think that's why the Expendables movies were so popular, because in a total void of any sort of masculinity like that, out came this sort of, and I put this in quotes, like old men of that era that all kind of banded together. And some of the newer people too. I think that people are like, hey, this still exists, So I think that's why the Expendables movies also were very popular.
Yeah, and I think too, like, you guys were talking about doing a Jeff Wincott podcast. It's like kind of the same thing. We think of like Last Man Standing. It's like, I mean, there are parts of it, of course, that we don't want to celebrate, like we should, like, or it's bad to celebrate, like the fact that it's really cool how, Jeff Wincott's smoking in that movie. Like, he just makes smoking really cool. And I think Wings does smoke in these movies as well. I think,
that's cool.
Yeah, and it's like, yes, we shouldn't be celebrating that smoking looks cool when certain people do it. But,
try not to.
But it's undeniable.
Right. I think, at our age, we're adult enough to be able to say, like, I think that's really cool, and I'm not going to go to the pharmacy or something, which is great that I can get cigarettes at the pharmacy. But, I'm not going to go and of course, part of the reason why I wouldn't be buying a pack of cigarettes now, too, is that when Wings was doing this in the 90s, they were like $1.50 a pack, and now it's like $10.50 for a pack of them. So, but I mean, yes, they're yeah, right, exactly. I mean, I think, wouldn't that get those movies an R rating now? The fact that they're smoking so much in them.
Oh, definitely. And you put that with his whiskey and his beer back, then he's smoking, he's drinking, he's yelling at people, demanding answers.
He always yells and demands answers, especially a hostage.
Right. He's like slapping people. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, so I think you touched on something here, Brad. I think that it's true that I think with Wings, he's a there's that kind of guy's guy thing to it, which I think you can enjoy. I think in an innocent way. I think he's not doing anything that's, I think there are aspects that we think of that is, kind of a toxic thing that I think these movies, I think if you watch it and you see an element that's toxic, I think if you could just recognize that it's bad and, it's not something that you want to celebrate, the really good and fun parts of it are still there that I think you're right. There's a piece that's it's missing. Like, we don't really have a Wings Hauser having that kind of fun in a movie that makes it that anymore. It's either you're either like the perfect man who's just been working out, works out 3 times a day and looks like perfect, or it's like Liam Neeson, or like you said, it's like a kid with a water bottle that they just edit the film to make it look like he's doing stuff.
Right. So I'm glad we're celebrating Wings here today for that reason, and hopefully this will inspire people to either see these movies for the first time or go back and watch them.
Yeah. I hope so. I think they're going to be. I mean, there's a lot of good ones to choose from.
Yeah. Well, speaking of which, you had another honorable mention.
I did.
Did you say you were going to mention Hostage?
Oh, Hostage. I was going to say Hostage, but yeah, just. Yeah, because he's yelling at everyone in that. He's yelling. All he does is yell at people. And he's like screaming up a storm. He's like smoking. He's like all this like camo, and it's like it slowly walks up. Karen Black also, and he's like slowly climbing up a wall.
Yeah, and it takes like half the movie.
Yeah, it's a good portion.
Like they keep cutting back to it. It's like they're doing other things, then he's still climbing up the wall, and then they have like 3 more scenes, and then he's still climbing up the wall, and it's takes a while, but he gets there.
Yeah, I feel like somebody on Instagram was discovering Hostage for the first time recently. I think somebody.
Yeah, I posted it a couple months ago on there.
That's right. I remember you, and I think somebody maybe was inspired by that, and they were talking about watching it like a week or 2 ago. I think somebody.
Oh, a week ago. That was recent. Okay. So
I
posted
feel like
that months
I saw
ago.
that. Yeah, I don't know, but I think that's the thing with these Wings movies for people out there is that, I mean, Hostage is another great one. No Safe Haven is another one that I was thinking of. That's like just a fun Wingser,
Yes.
just go,
Right.
if you see it, I think that's something that people maybe should realize is that if you're scrolling your streaming site, Tubi or whatever, or if you're in the, in Goodwill or something, if you're in a thrift store as we call them, or if in the UK you call them a charity shop, either one.
Yeah, I've seen that now. Charity shops.
Yeah,
it's a nicer term, right? That's just a charity shop.
Right. Yeah. We say right. When we talk about thrifting, it sounds like you're
stealing it.
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, sometimes you can get some good deals that are close to steals.
Right. Well, that's why they call it that. I don't call it a steal shop.
Right. It almost.
But as you were saying, so if you're looking through them and you see your Wings,
just buy it.
You can't go wrong with those. I think you're going to have a fun time with those. I think that's a I don't think we've talked about like however many movies here, and I mean, another honorable mention that I was thinking of was a movie called In Between that has Wings and Robert Forster, and actually it has Gary Daniels in a very small non-speaking role, but it's about 3 people who are like in purgatory. Alexandra Paul is also in it, and then I can't remember this actress's name, but she was on Street Justice with Brian Genesee and
Carl
Weathers. Yeah. She was like the bartender or something on that show. But they're like in purgatory and they're waiting for Robert Forster to take them to heaven, I guess. And Wings is in that. I mean, he's crazy. I mean, he is toxically masculine in that one, but he's doing it on purpose. Like that's his character, is to be a jerk in that one. I mean, Robert Forster steals that one, but it's it's like Wings is just so wingsy that it makes movies like that are. I mean, that movie was kind of boring. It was kind of spinning its wheels. It wasn't the best film for me. But Wings, when he's in a scene and he's just being Wings, it elevates a scene that you normally would look at and go like, okay, this needed to be edited more. There's too much talking here or something like that. I don't know. There's something about when Wings is in the film that makes it much better.
Well, that's true. The best thing to do if you have Wings in your movie is to just let him loose.
Yeah.
Don't try to restrain him. Just let him go. I think that will elevate the movie, if not certain scenes. So yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Now, one more recent Wingser here that I wanted to mention was a movie called Rubber. I don't know if you've heard of that one.
It's about a killer tire or something.
Yeah,
the tire's rolling around and killing. I've heard of it. I think I've seen the trailer, but I have not seen the movie.
Wings is very interesting. He has a small role in that one. And the movie itself is interesting too, because it's not really played as like a spoof. It's almost like played straight. But there's no like explanations for why this tire has the ability to kill people. It's just there and it's just killing people. And it's really interesting, but Wings makes it such like this like next level thing where he's playing this older person sitting in a wheelchair who's kind of just like talking about what's happening, and he's kind of like just watching the proceedings a bit. It's an interesting because it feels like a little bit more subdued Wings, but even when he's a subdued Wings, there's a lot of energy there that's coming out in a role, which I think is, I haven't seen a lot of his recent stuff. That's probably like the most recent thing I've seen. And when did that come out? That probably came out like 10 years ago.
I think it did.
Yeah, 2010 actually, on the dot, 10 years ago. But I kind of feel like for his career, that's when we think of actors kind of getting, playing more mature roles, and how do you make that pivot? What's interesting about Wings is that I think even, playing, more subdued parts now that he's older, there's still an energy to his acting that it still comes through even in a part like that.
Yeah, I think it's true. You do see that sort of underlying bubbling under sort of energy, and even when he is more of the subdued Wings. So yeah, that's true. That is a good observation.
Yeah. Ty, did you have any more honor or Brett, any more honorable mentions?
I am out of
I think
Wings
we got
movies.
nothing. I think we have
Fresh
completed
out of
Wings. Fresh out of Wings.
All right. Well, then I think probably we left it on a good note in the sense of just like anybody. When you see Wings on the cover, or as they say in the UK, see him on the tin, you just grab it. Just grab the Wings. It's worth it.
Don't let go.
Right, don't let go. Grab that Wings and don't let go. Yeah, let those wings take you higher. Let those wings.
Oh man, we packed in a lot of puns in this episode.
Yes. On the Wings of Love, guys.
There's a song. If you end your show with a song, either that or "Keep on Fighting" from Deadly Force would be a good one too.
Yeah,
Stoney Jackson.
Stoney Jackson.
That would be great. Yeah, see, I kind of like, because with my show, it's like so stripped down before, but when I used to do the live one on Mixlr that I think you guys were on a couple times for, there was like a soundboard that I could actually use because somebody was paying for that Mixlr account. It was supposed to be like a night of podcasts. So it's like, I think like Mo had a show and John Cross had a show, and Jamie, who's my co-host on here, she had a show as well. And so like there's supposed to be a whole night of podcasts that somebody was paying for. And so like I had a soundboard and I could just put in like, throw in whatever songs I wanted to. And so it made it a lot easier. So On the Wings of Love, I think that would be.
I think if this was our podcast, we might do that or either that or Keep on Fighting. Because I really like Keep on Fighting. I think that's a good song.
It's a good song. And that'd be the title of the episode, On the Wings of Love, I think.
If this was our podcast, that's probably what we do. But speaking of which, maybe we could do our plugs. And
I was going to say, like, I love your titles that you have.
For thanks.
I know. I always keep mine simple. It's just like this episode, this movie, this episode, Wings or whatever, and then put the description. But I might just as an honor, sort of like as a nod to you guys being on the show, I might go with On the Wings of Love for this one.
Oh, okay. That's true. If people were to look at our list of episodes and just look at the titles, I think they might be entertained by that because we do try to give them an interesting title.
We have a funny title for the Jeff Wincott one. Did you want me to say it, or you want to wait till?
Go for it.
It's Wincott or Lose Caught.
And by the way, our titles don't have to make sense as long as there's some sort of pun that we were able to cram in there.
Lose Caught's not a word yet.
Not yet, but it will be.
Oh, so wait, you want to do plugs? Okay.
I guess all I would say is check out our website is comeuppance.reviews.net, as we indicated earlier. And our podcast is the Comeuppance Reviews podcast. And I won't go through all the places where you can find the podcast because you can find it pretty much anywhere. But I think iTunes is where most people get it. So check out our podcast there.
And we're on Facebook under the site name. And then we're on Twitter under Ty Comeuppance. And Instagram is Ty Action Rocks. It's all synergized over there with my VHS pictures. I posted Honor and Glory today.
Yes.
Oh, well, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I noticed about that Honor and Glory cover, or the Honor and Glory box, was that John Miller's name wasn't mentioned. Like, there's a picture
I noticed that. Yeah. I thought he wasn't in it for a second. Like, well, I gotta tag him.
That's definitely an oversight for one of America's best actors.
Yes, as you guys refer to as an American treasure, which I definitely.
Yeah, American treasure.
Yes, I love that.
Sometimes a national treasure, but yeah.
That's what it was, national treasure. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I just and the other thing too with your podcast is I have Spotify on my cable box now, and
that's slick technology.
Yeah, and so I was looking through, my Spotify, like I guess like library or whatever, to see like what albums I had saved or whatever or liked or whatever, and your podcast came up. So I didn't really remember following it on Spotify because I just do everything on iTunes. That's like my it's because my it's just on my phone, so it's like I can just pop it up whenever. But I guess for people that use Spotify a lot, that's another way. It's another easy way to do it. It's just you're listening to music or whatever, and you just scroll down your page, and boom, there's a new episode. You can check it out.
Yeah, thank you for that. And yes, we are on Spotify, and that's pretty slick that people at Spotify knew that you liked our podcast.
Cool.
I must have liked it. I think I must have found it and just hit the heart on it, and that did it. Without just kind of like I was just going to support the podcast, but not really like thinking like I was going to listen on Spotify because I just do it on iTunes. but it didn't even cross my mind that, and I was like, oh, there it is. I think it was your podcast. I think After Movie Diner was on there, and I think the Smorgasbord one, the one that does like the Eric Roberts one in those ones. So I've got to probably add a few others that, like I Must Break This podcast or whatever. But yeah, it was really cool seeing. I was like, oh, look at, there's the Comeuppance. It's like your image that you have there with the flames and all of that. Yeah, just really cool. I mean, I think it's really great imagery that you have there with that.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, thanks. Well, we're talking about synergy. We just tried to synergize it with the website. It's pretty much the same, as far as the font and everything.
Yeah,
we just wanted people to know.
And, that's our tagline is what? This time it's a podcast.
This time it's a podcast. Yeah.
I love that. Excellent.
Well, thanks for having us on your podcast.
Yeah, thank you very much. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, just a quick, for the DTV Connoisseur, of course, everybody, we're kind of everywhere as DTV Connoisseur or DTVC. The site is dtvconnoisseur.blogspot.com. Also, everybody, the novel I wrote, Chad and Accounting, is available on Amazon. So you can either just look up my name or look up Chad and Accounting. You can get it on either in paperback or Kindle Unlimited. There's a link on the site for that as well. But yeah. Thank you guys for coming on.
You're welcome.
I know.
Anytime.
Anytime. Well, you'll be on soon. We'll be on your podcast again. Not Chad Wolf in Accounting.
Right. Not Chad Wolf in Accounting.
Nice callback.
Yes. I don't think the character actually has a last name at all
he doesn't.
in the book.
Okay.
Yeah, he's just Chad. So but now that I think of it like Wolf, boy, that's just a good last name.
I know. Or first name in the case of Wolf Larson.
Wolf Larson, Chad Wolf Larson. Okay, getting into the realm of absurdity.
Well, thank you guys again for coming on. Like I said, it probably won't be long before we're collaborating again, but it's always a great time. I think this was another fun conversation.
Yeah, it was fun, a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. And thank you everybody for listening. And we'll be back soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
When you've had a long week and want to mix it up with something new and interesting to eat, try Blue Apron's 2 or 4 serving menu plans with those hard-to-find ingredients sure to spice up your weekend. With 60-plus options each week, you can choose from an ever-changing mix of high-quality meat, fish, vegetarian, WW-recommended, and wellness offerings. Order now and get $110 off across your first 5 orders when you visit blueapron.com/unique.